Hello, everyone. Welcome to Conversations with Sekani, a podcast for people in their 20s who are trying to figure out life and not get lost along the way. Today's guest is Nancy Dunham, a journalist, author, and creator of bonus tracks. Over the course of her career, Nancy has interviewed hundreds of musicians and artists, collecting not only their stories, but the wisdom hidden between the lines, the lessons, struggles, and unexpected truths that often become the bonus tracks of life. Our own journey has been marked by profound loss, resilience, and reinvention. She grew up navigating hospitals with a critically ill parent, endured bullying in her profession, survived deeply difficult family dynamics, and later faced the devastating loss of her husband. Through it all, Nancy discovered that some of life's greatest lessons come from the challenges we never planned for. Today, she brings together stories, insights, and hard earned wisdom to help others navigate midlife, relationships, griefs, identity. Nancy, welcome to Conversations with Sekani. It's a pleasure to have you on.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Wow, that sounds, I hope I can live up to my own press there. Thank you.
All right. Wow. Okay. So yes, Nancy, I want you to take us back to your early years. Actually, growing up, you said you wanted to be anyone but yourself. So where
I,
did you find where did that thing like that feeling come from actually?
yeah, gosh, well, first of all, thank you again for having me on. I'm very flattered. I love your podcast.
Mm-hmm.
It came from a lot of things. It came from insecurity because when I was very, very young, I grew up in a chaotic household where my mom was hospitalized many, many times. I had two sisters who were very popular. I never sort of was. I was kind of the happy accident that came along. I don't think my folks had really planned on having another kid. So here I was. And I would say it was just isolation. And really, my writings are a lot about all of that, of course, but also, and this sounds so corny, but I'll just say it, that music made everything different for me because I could relate to the stories in different songs and I could imagine different lives than what I had. And later on, becoming a journalist and specifically a music journalist, I was able to talk to the musicians who played or wrote or both my favorite songs and really find out what led them to write those and record those and what pains they overcame in doing so.
Wow. Okay. All right. So, like you said, you spoke with hundreds of musicians and artists actually. So what have this I know you learned lessons from them, right? But which one has actually, struck you the most
I
or
think,
stuck with you the most actually? I think I
yeah,
used the
yeah,
word stuck.
sure, sure. I think it was Robert Plant. I had
Mm,
interviewed him for a cover story for a major publication, and I was very fortunate because we were basically alone. It was sort of funny because we were in a hotel
mm,
lobby and he was trying to get a cup of tea and the people who were working there didn't recognize him or didn't know him or whatever. So he couldn't even get his tea. So he's a little grumpy. But what I found interesting was that he, by his own choosing, took a step back from his music, or actually, I should say his celebrity, so that he could concentrate more on the music he loves and also return to Wales and rekindle relationships with his family and friends. And that really goes back to something my late husband used to tell me because I was pretty money obsessed. And he had said, "Where are we going with all this money?" And tried to
mm,
convince me that um, we're not poor anymore. I'm not being traumatized anymore. shouldn't this be the time to lead a happier life, to really, have relationships develop, have them deepen, get to know myself a bit more. And I admired Robert Plant for doing that himself. And so that was a big lesson for me to learn.
Wow. Okay. Oh,
I hope
all
that makes
right.
sense. Yeah, I hope that makes sense.
Yes, it does.
Can I give you another
Definitely,
example?
actually.
Yeah, can I give you another
Yes,
example?
definitely.
And this won't be a popular one because Marilyn Manson has had his problems, obviously,
Mm.
and has been accused of all types of horrible things. And I'm certainly not excusing them or making excuses for him or whatever. But one thing that I really hesitated, to be honest with you, to talk about this because of his reputation. And someone convinced me. They said, that doesn't negate what he did for you. I did an absolutely horrible interview with him. He had called me very, very late at night, many hours after he and I were supposed to speak. And I did an absolutely horrible interview with him. I'll be honest, wine was involved, and it was a Friday night, and so forth and so on. And he could have destroyed my whole career because he could have told people, she's so unprofessional. She wasn't even ready for this. And as I can later joke about it and say, I was crazier than Marilyn Manson on this interview, but it really taught me something about, just being kind and giving people a break on things because, he had put his time aside to talk to me and I was a jerk. And he just couldn't have, maybe he just didn't care. I don't know what the reason was. But the bottom line is he could have sunk my whole career and he didn't.
Mm.
He just kept it between us. And, the story came out, it was a cover story, it turned out well. Everybody was happy. By some miracle, I could pull it together. But that's another lesson that I learned. And I don't know if that comes from his background. He was abused as a kid. I know he's an abuser, or so they say. What it is that caused him to allow me to continue being a music journalist, but basically he did, and he did me a huge favor.
Mm. Oh, all right. So what I would take from this is, like you said, you really don't know the reason why, but for whoever is in that spot that is listening, right? And you find yourself with someone that you could actually reel them, and then you say, no, I wouldn't. I mean, what I'm trying to say basically is just to be kinder to people, right? No matter the situation, just be much more kinder and nicer to people, basically. So I think
Whenever
that would be my takeaway, right?
I didn't mean to interrupt you, I apologize.
Oh, no,
When I
it's,
grew up, my mom was
yeah.
my life was very chaotic. And if you
Mm.
crossed a line in anything, you not only weren't forgiven, you oftentimes needed to beg for forgiveness. And it
Mm.
seemed like the damage was irreparable. And this could be very small things. It could be getting an ice cream cone before dinner. It could be so many different things. Just many, many different things. And so when I went out into the world, I really thought that's how life was. And
Mm.
by the time I interviewed Marilyn Manson, I realized the world is not that unforgiving. But I thought, boy, if anybody could destroy someone, I mean, he could destroy me. I mean, he's an international star. He got all the, huge team behind
Mm.
him. They went through a lot to set up this interview. And so I guess it showed that even though you have power, uh, you don't have to use it in such a negative way. And that probably sounds corny, but I think as I look at the political landscape throughout the world now, and as I look at different things like that, you can use your power in positive ways too.
Exactly. right? Like you said, using power in positive ways, right? And the funny thing now is he might not remember, right? But you actually do remember. That's how far kindness can actually go, right? So whoever you're being kind to, just do it because kindness is good, right? Because those people would never forget, right? They will never forget the incident. So I think it's just very good for us to spread love, kindness, and positivity also. So that would be my, takeaway from your story, right? And
And that's the
right.
thing, and I'm sure negativity does too. When I look back at some of the things I did, especially when people were working for me, I'm very ashamed of it. And
Mm,
I feel like, I hope it didn't damage anyone. It certainly wasn't my intention, but
mm,
yeah, how you interact with people, I mean, just makes, I mean, we all know that, and it sounds so basic to say that, but I think it goes back to, again, security in yourself, knowing who you are.
mm,
And I hate to say not taking things personally, but not taking things personally, we're all struggling. And I feel kind of silly saying that because I feel like I'm a Hallmark greeting card. But, everyone is, the memories are long. And,
mm,
Marilyn Manson doesn't know me at all, you know. He probably wouldn't even
mm,
remember this. But as you just said, I do.
mm,
And it makes a big difference in how I view him and the world, actually.
exactly. Wow. Okay. So yes, I'll say thank you, Nancy, for sharing such beautiful insights with us. Another thing I would love for us to touch on, which is quite sensitive, by the way, is, loss, right? The themes of loss. At the beginning, you mentioned your husband, your loving
Yes.
husband, and, the
Yes.
advice he also gave to you, of which I would say, sorry for your loss, and I'm glad it was amazing, actually. So,
Oh,
yes,
well, it's funny too, because it makes you feel like a bonus track. When I first came out with that, as you can imagine, it was
mm,
because I got bonuses from the songs. I understood more what the songs meant and how they could apply to different people's lives and my life. But really, let's be honest. I mean, all of us every day have a bonus track. And again, I sound a little like a Hallmark greeting card. It's probably not a revelation to anybody except me, but the way I grew up, um, I think that it took a while for it to, really come to me because I was a very, very negative, unhappy,
mm,
um, sullen person for many years. And I think that just so many things with music, with my husband, with the world, with myself, changed. And so
mm.
that's what made the difference.
Wow. Yes, I would say I'm glad that, things change. Right now, you see life on a newer and better perspective, actually. I think, I'm glad you're seeing things differently now, and then this change, right? And, you know, I'm curious, right? How are you able to navigate, the loss of your husband, and how did it change your perspective on life, basically?
It's funny because, as I said, when I grew up, my mom was always in and out of hospitals for, I mean,
Mm,
months. I mean, really tragic stuff. And so I almost went into automatic mode. Even the cops said to me, "Wow, you're really calm about this." And I said, "Well, I have to be." And I've
mm,
experienced this, many times over with my mom. But the question was, I think what you were asking is, wow, how did you move beyond that? You never really do. The grief stays with you, but my husband was a very positive person, and he was a very kind person, and he's not alive to live his life. And that's a shame because he really brought, I believe, and I've had other people say to me, they believe he brought a lot of great things to people. So I feel it'd be doing him a disservice not to try to just tell people who are going through horrible things they're not alone. When he died, I tried so hard to find a podcast or find a book or find articles or something that wasn't simplistic about, you're going through this tragedy, you're going to be okay. And I just couldn't. And that's one reason I responded so positively to your podcast, because I think you bring a lot of wisdom to people that isn't, don't move for a year, don't do this for a year, don't do that. And that's also simplistic. And sometimes you just want people to listen to you. And sometimes you just want to know other people have gone through something like I have and they've come out the other side. And I can do that too.
Mm. Wow. Oh, all
I
right.
hope
So
that
yeah,
answers your question.
yes, it does
That's the
actually.
downside of talking to a journalist because we're always asking questions. So when someone gives us a minute, we go on all day.
It's fine. Actually, I love when my guests are, very expressive. I mean, it feels more realistic, and you know that this stems from lived experiences, right? So, yeah,
Thank you.
I do love that, right?
Thank
So,
you.
yeah. Okay, so you also mentioned like my podcast and just helping people out there because I think, right, that a whole lot of people, they probably feel lonely. They feel alone. And like you
Yes,
said, it's important to let people know that they are not alone. Some things that they're probably experiencing, they're not the only one going through it. And that is why, we bring in guests who have gone through that phase of their life and they were able to pass that phase, right? So that one can just sit, listen, and learn. I mean, it's not easy, definitely, but it just makes you feel better knowing that you're not alone, like you said. Oh.
exactly. I mean, as you know, everything isn't a triumph. I mean, I can give you as many stories about certainly some of these brand name musicians or actors or whoever who were terrible to work with and really left. They didn't scar me, but they left a negative impression, the old saying
Mm.
bad taste in my mouth after talking to them. But the thing is, I've, and again, I'm a slow learner, I think, but I came to realize that it's not always about me, it's about them too,
Mm.
because that's how I was for many years. And glad I've moved through that.
Right. So, and one thing they say is learning is lifelong, right?
Yes.
So, right, as long as we are alive, we are all learning, no matter the age or the time, right? Even in your 80s, you're still learning. Learning is lifelong, basically. So,
It,
what
it,
matters is, yeah, what matters is being open to learning and changing. That's just what matters. Right.
Yeah, I just, and there are many, many tragic stories out there, and certainly
Mm.
stories of survival and hope that are much deeper than mine. But just as a real person, I like people to know, again, they're not alone out there.
Exactly. Wow. Okay. So yes, thank you, Nancy. Another thing I would like for us to touch on, it makes me laugh. I don't know why. Okay. So midlife and the mad tea party.
Oh my gosh, yes. My fantasy party of a
All
of a
right.
childhood, yes.
Okay. So what do you actually mean by that?
Oh, I was bullied a lot. A lot of people are bullied when they
Mm.
were a kid. I had a family member try to drown me. I had a family
Mm.
member who tormented me. So I
Mm.
think you have to look at what life you have right now and realize this is not, this doesn't have to be permanent. You
Mm.
can, uh, it changed things. I mean, it seems again like a Hallmark card, but I'm thinking of somebody like Cheryl Strayed, the author, who, went on that Appalachian hike and completely changed her life. Stephanie Land, who wrote Maid, who was in a homeless shelter when her daughter started walking, and again, really changed her life. For me, I think the advice is think about the life you want. Um,
Mm.
and that's what music did for me. It told me stories that told me about different lives, and I could imagine myself in those. Um, and I try to say, okay, this is what I want. Obviously, I'm not going to be a millionaire. That ship sailed many, many, many years ago, if it was ever in the water. But I'm not going to be famous. I'm not going to be this. I'm not going to be that. But I can be a good person, and I can live a life that is as filled with positivity as I can make it. So yeah, I would say that. I would say don't stop reaching out to people. Sometimes you get on, you think you trust somebody and you love somebody and you think they're going to work out and it doesn't. And I'm thinking of the
Mm.
Netflix show, Should I Marry a Murderer? When
Mm.
you hear the title, you think, wow, of course not. Who would do that? But you watch that documentary and you realize the internal torment this woman was going through trying to build a life that she really wanted. And she was a very intelligent person. It's just she got caught in a trap. And yeah, the only one who could extricate herself from it was her. So I hope that answers your question.
Right, it does actually. Like you said, don't stop reaching out. Right, always reach out to people. Wow. Okay. And before I ask my final question, I want us to touch on bonus tracks. Right. So first of
Yes,
all, why did
yes.
you choose the title bonus tracks?
Yes, bonus tracks. Yes. Well, because of the music and the bonus tracks on the albums and so forth. That's where it first came from. But I hope these are some bonus tracks. I hope that it helps someone because I guess the main thing I want to say is, you you your life right now is not a permanent condition as far as the
Yeah.
situations that you're in. I hope your life is a permanent condition. I should go back. But the situations you're in do not have to be a permanent condition. I'm not saying it's easy to change things around. It's certainly not. But I think that if you can map things out of what you want, as small as they are, and take those small steps, you can get there.
Hmm. Wow. Okay. All right. And the funny thing is, all these unexpected detours, right? Sometimes they become the most meaningful part of our lives. Right.
That's
So,
true.
yeah, definitely. So, at the end of the day, this whole bonus tracks, I mean, they are all life lessons, basically. And one just have to, go through it and just, I think, personally, I would say just at the beginning, like I said earlier, be nice, be kind, reach out to people and understand that you're not doing life alone, right? So that would be like the key message from everything we said so far, right?
It's so
So,
true. It's so
right,
true. Yeah. And you're not. I mean, you can be
exactly.
what you want to be. I mean, I think there's a lot of people who look at somebody like, I don't know. Um, I'm going to use Chris Brown as an example because I talked to him when he had just broken out.
Mm,
And, his dad ran a gas station. His dad gave out the flyers. Chris worked really hard. And I realize again that he's gone off the track for a lot of
mm,
people. But the thing is, he didn't say, well, my journey is always going to be working at a gas station. I mean, he had a vision of what he wanted. He reached out to his dad and other people to help him get there, and he did.
mm. Wow. Okay.
Thank you
Wow.
so much for, listening to me, for taking the time to talk about bonus tracks. And I just hope that you and your audience can take something away from this that's useful.
Oh, definitely. Personally, I've taken a whole lot.
You are
Right.
very
I've learned
kind.
a
Thank
whole
you.
lot. Right.
Thank
And
you.
finally, the whole purpose of my podcast is just to to make the younger generation learn, right? To get clarity when it comes to life generally. And I want you to talk to people out there, specifically those in their 20s, because most of them they feel this pressure to, have life all figured out. And another thing I noticed is comparison, right? We tend to compare ourselves to others, social media and everything, right? So there's just a whole lot going on in my generation, and specifically, people feel pressure to have life figured out. So, what would you tell people in that age range? What would you, advise them basically?
I would advise them to, and again, this sounds a little corny, but believe in yourself. I mean, I wish that I had shot a lot higher, been a lot more diligent, and uh, what I was doing when I was young. I was very lucky because I knew I always wanted to be a journalist, but really I didn't. I got so enmeshed in, the family drama, the bullying, the this and the that, that I don't want to say I lost sight of it, but I put it on in the background and dealt with the moment to moment. And I think you're right. You do feel like you have to plan everything out, and things move so quickly now with social media and so forth. But I would say, work your goals. I mean, look at what you're doing. I mean, nothing came easy for me with journalism. I didn't go to a Ivy League school. I didn't just start out rich. I didn't, have this and that and the other thing. But I tried very hard to, once I got on track in college, I really tried hard to look at what I wanted, how I wanted to shape my life. And, I made mistakes, but I worked toward it. And that's what I would say is it's hard now too, because you have all of this social media and you think things are instant and they're not. And the world has changed. There's 5 generations out there really now, and we all have different values and different ways of looking at things. And it's very difficult to mesh and work with everybody in the different generations. But I'd say take what you can, take what you think works for you. Don't box yourself in just with your generation. Read, look at what other people have done, listen to podcasts such as this, and try to take away some of the messages of how people did, again, uh, thrive even when they felt lost.
Mm. Okay. All right. So, yes, thank you, Nancy. Like you said, believe in yourself first, right? First of all, believe in yourself and understand that life is a step-by-step process. Actually, you cannot skip a step. You can't jump. You cannot wake up one day and then you're suddenly so rich or something like that. You actually need to work towards it, or you need to believe in yourself, basically. Right. Wow. Okay. So yes, thank you, Nancy. I
It's
think
just
this
our
has
whole
been.
thing. Life is a long song. And I
Mm,
just read something about if you choose what's easy today,
mm,
um, what you want in the long run won't materialize.
mm,
So, yeah, look a little ahead. I mean, I'm not saying you should go live in a refrigerator box and, you know,
mm, mm,
not have any money as you're saving to do whatever. But I'm saying that, yeah, you need to keep that focus that
mm.
life is a long song. What do you want in 5 years, 10 years, 20 years?
Yeah.
Work toward
Life
it.
begins. Okay. All right, I'll tell my next guest, you said life is a long song. I think this is the first time I'm hearing that word actually.
Oh, no kidding. That's a very famous song by Jethro Tull, which is well before your time, that band. They started a billion years ago and they're still going strong. But yes, Life is a Long Song.
Wow. Okay, all right. Life is a long song. Right. Okay, so yes, thank you, Nancy. And this
Thank
brings me
you.
to you're welcome. It brings me to the final segment of my podcast. I call it the rapid fire segment, right? So you could either answer with a word or a phrase starting now. So what
Well,
is okay?
uh-huh.
Okay, so what is one musician or artist who changed the way you think?
I mentioned a couple, I think. I think certainly, as long as we're talking about Jethro Tull, I'll talk about Ian Anderson, who is the front man, the main songwriter, the main musician. He is truly a person who lives life on his own terms.
Mm,
Um, I don't think it's a secret to say that, he does have a little bit of a reputation of being grouchy, but he certainly, when you're living your life in public, it's easy to
mm,
gosh, get overwhelmed. So I can see some of that. But what I like about him is, again, this is somebody who has really used his art to make his life as, um, I don't want to say positive, but I'll say as creative as possible. He knew where he wanted to go ever since he was a kid. He knew exactly what he wanted and he worked toward it. And, he hasn't lived the movie star life. He has worked hard to get the musicians he needed to do this. He worked hard to establish the family he needed to do this. And yeah, he's an internationally known musician. And I think and you don't hear about him with scandals or falling out of a club at 3 a.m. with some dancer or something. I mean, you hear he's all about living a life that is creative and family oriented and what he wants it to be. So I give him a lot of credit for that.
mm. All right. Wow. Okay, so yes, what is one book everyone should read?
Oh gosh. It's funny, the one I always say, and it's a very old book, is Ogilvy on advertising. I read that when I was a little kid. And it really, even though I didn't go into advertising, it really inspired me and showed me a path to have a successful career. And
Mm.
so I would say Ogilvy on advertising.
All right. Wow. And finally, what is one word that describes this season of your life?
Contentment.
Hmm.
Contentment.
Wow.
I
I think, right, I'm gonna say something.
No, go ahead.
Okay. I think, contentment is one of the underrated things that is today, basically. People underestimate how much contentment could have an effect in your life, right? Because
Hmm.
I mean, being contented just it helps a lot in so many areas of your life. It comes with peace, it comes with joy, it comes with a whole lot of things. And people I feel like it's not talked about enough, right? So for you to get to that point in your life where you say contentment, wow, that is the peak of
Oh,
everyone
that is
of
great.
life
That,
basically,
that
right?
is lovely. Thank you for saying that. Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to say I try not to have regrets, but everybody
Mm,
does. And I look back and I think, oh, I should have done this or that or the other thing. But as I also look back, I think I'm a little kinder to myself and say, I did what I thought was right at the time. And, I'm very content with who I am.
right, exactly. Wow. Oh, like you said, be a little kinder, be kind to yourself, right? The kindness, we spoke about being kind to other people, but then most importantly, be kind to yourself, right? That one too is important, right? Kindness to
Exactly.
everyone around us and ourselves. So yes, thank you, Nancy. This has been packed with a whole lot of insights, I would say. And
I,
yes,
I hope so.
right, actually it does. And yes, finally, before you go, Nancy, where can listeners get to, learn more about you and also connect with you?
Oh, probably the best way is to email me at
Mhm.
bonustricksbynancy@gmail.com. And I have Substacks and I have essays and my book, and I'm doing a podcast myself. So please, contact me at Bonus Tricks by Nancy, and I will be glad to give any information I can.
Right. Wow. Oof, okay. And I'll put the links in the show notes, right? So it's easily accessible for listeners. And to my listeners, I would say thank you for tuning in to Conversations with Sekani. If this episode sparked something in you, just as it did in me, make sure to share to someone who you think might need this and also subscribe so you don't miss out on new episodes. Once again, thank you, Nancy. Do have a beautiful day ahead of you.
You too, and please stay in touch. You seem like a lovely person. I'd love to talk to you more, just
Oh,
off the record. So yeah, I'd love to talk to you. So thank you so much again. I'm very flattered you invited me.
you're welcome. I'll definitely be reaching out, Nancy.
Please
Take
do.
care.
Please
All
do.
right.
Thank you. Thank you again.
Oh, you're welcome.